I'm on.
They're going to find a problem with the fact that it's abrupt.
Am I plugged in? Is this plugged in?
Should be plugged in, yeah.
Let me try it again.
A lot of effort.
Just
into
reseat it.
saying that
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're to the finals of the Allegheny region competition. We have the final 3 teams who will now do the 10-minute presentations. The winner will receive $50,000 to advance the innovation, but each team has already won an opportunity to compete at the national level for additional prizes. So with that, I would like to move right on to introduce our first team, who is already here. Boundary Labs from Case Western. Okay.
Okay, 10 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning, okay? Okay, go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prince Ghosh, and I'm the founder and CEO of Boundary Labs. We're a startup spun out of research done at Case Western Reserve University. Today, I'm here to tell you how we're about to redefine aerodynamics. So the main problem that we're trying to address is the fact that wind energy still isn't cost-effective enough to compete with fossil fuels on a consumer level. We really see this as a function of 2 major issues. 1, wind turbines suffer from aerodynamic drag and are thereby less efficient. And 2, at high wind speeds, turbines have to go through expensive braking cycles, leading to more wear and tear and higher operating costs. We saw this as an incredible industry to enter, really because of the fact that there's about 80 gigawatts of wind currently installed in the US today, with over 50,000 plus operational turbines up and running. What we're really interested in, though, is the wind turbine blade market. This is a market that's projected to grow by about 43% by 2020, with over a 10% annual growth in installed capacity over the next 5 years alone. So what does our technology actually do? What we've developed is a flexible, adhesive plasma actuator that regulates flow over wind turbine blades. That's a bit complex, so let me explain what it really does. What we've designed is a thin, flexible, solid-state electrode that can be applied right to the surface of wind turbine blades, as seen in this picture on the left. When activated, the electrodes ionize a thin layer of non-thermal plasma over the surface of the blade and control the airflow with electric fields. This results in an improvement of low wind speed performance by about 4%, and also is able to protect the turbine at high wind speeds by actually inducing drag, thereby slowing down the RPMs of the turbine and leading to less braking costs. We currently have a provisional patent application filed for our technology and are working with our university's IP venture clinic to file for a full patent application. So what does this really look like? In this image on the left, you can see a typical test wind turbine blade that we've developed in a wind tunnel test facility. What I really want to point your attention to is that turbulent, dense air flowing on top of that turbine on the left, on top of the turbine blade on the left. Now this is that exact same turbine blade with our technology on and activated. With the use of electric fields, what we're able to do is generate that thin layer of plasma, delay the boundary layer separation point, increase the overall lift of the blade, and thereby maximum power output. We see our path to success as broken down into 5 main stages. Phase 1 is a conception of an idea, the development of a white paper, raising a bit of funding, and also going through the NSF ICOR program, where we conducted over 40 customer interviews with really key executives and major wind energy producers and OEMs, speaking to the folks who would make the executive decisions on the business and technical side of whether this technology was feasible or not. Stage 2 is where we're at right now. Over the past few months and into the summer, we'll be conducting extensive R&D testing focused on degradation and optimization in partnership with NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. Phase 3 is the first time our tech goes up and on a turbine. We're seeking to partner with a wind energy producer to have our actuators up and on blades in lieu of stage 4, where we'll be able to get our actuators on an entire wind farm, targeting turbines that were bought under older power purchase agreements and that are smaller in size, about the 100 to 150 kilowatt range, so that the turbine operators can maximize the amount of energy output on those turbines before their 20-year lifespan is over. Our eventual and final goal, though, is stage 5. What we want to do is eventually partner up with an OEM so that our technology can be integrated straight into the wind turbine blade design. In terms of financials, this is really broken up into 3 major segments. Phase 1 is where we're at right now. Proof of concept and customer discovery. Where all money won and raised through R&D, where all money won and raised goes straight towards R&D. Phase 2 is where we'll be this summer and into the next year of a wind operator partnership, where we'll be making a profit based off of individual revenue uptake on each installed turbine, but will be overall cash negative because all of that money is going to continue straight into R&D and optimization of our technology in lieu of stage 3, our third final stage. At this point, we'll be cash positive because all of our individual in-house manufacturing and R&D will be eased back as we transition into an IP license of our technology straight with a wind turbine OEM. So Siemens, Gamesa, GE, so on and so forth. The value proposition that we're putting forward is really two-phased. Phase 1 is we're able to offer enhanced control over blade velocity, and phase 2 is we're able to reduce aerodynamic drag over turbines with no moving parts whatsoever. This results in two things: decreased costs and increased revenue. The major factors in decreased costs are lower brake usage and maintenance times, and those for increased revenue are widened cut-in and cut-out speed ranges, increased operational time, and maximization of energy output. This is a typical wind turbine power curve that any wind energy producer is used to seeing. Now this is that same curve with our technology on and activated. By lowering the minimum cut-in speed and increasing the maximum cut-out speed for these turbines, we're able to maximize the amount of area under the curve and juice out every single kilowatt of energy that these turbines can produce. Through extensive industry analysis, we've come to realize that some of the major competitors in the wind energy industry fight for even a 1% improvement in aerodynamic efficiency. We're confident that the 4% we'll be able to offer will be strongly adopted by the market. What I'm really excited to tell you about, though, is some of the societal impacts our technology has. If 100% of wind turbines in America can have our actuators on them, this will lead to an equivalent of 16 coal power plants being displaced off the grid, 5 million plus cars worth of emissions taken off the road, which generates enough excess energy to power the state of Illinois 9 times over. Some of our major competition on the direct side comes from a small startup up in Connecticut focused on using similar boundary layer manipulation technology to control airflow. Through the IP that we filed, we've been able to not only do that, but also offer protection from high wind speeds by actually inducing drag rather than reducing it and slowing down the RPMs that those turbines have to go through. On the indirect competition slide, a lot of that comes from advancements from major OEMs, focused on pitch control improvements, lighter materials, and mechanical improvements. The big thing here is that while all of these advancements are small and steady, they're nearly impossible to be integrated into the entire existing turbine fleet that's up and functional right now. That's where our technology comes in. Some of the really interesting use cases for defense that I want to quickly touch base about today are really the traditional active flow control over mid-sized UAVs, so the Reaper over here on the left, improving aerodynamic efficiency to lower fuel costs. But then this case on the right over here. A couple of weeks ago, we had a chance to speak to a few Air Force pilots at ARPA-E, Department of Energy conference we were at. And we found out from them that when performing mid-air refueling maneuvers, a lot of the wake and wash of the airflow coming off of the boom system, so that cylinder you see from the tanker to the jet, causes a lot of unsteady turbulence for the fighter jet pilot themselves. We're seeking to apply our actuators onto the boom to smoothen and streamline that flow, making it safer for the pilots and making the overall fueling system more efficient. We think that we can do so with a total budget of about $15,000, with the main line item right here coming in through wind tunnel rent time over at NASA Glenn Research Center, like I mentioned earlier. We're a team comprised of undergraduate, master's, and PhD students in mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, data science, material science, and business. We're also advised by a phenomenal team of business advisors, strategic advisors, legal mentors, and technical advisors, particularly Dr. Mario Garcia-Sanz, our technical advisor, who's a world-renowned expert in energy and control systems and a current technical director at ARPA-E, the U.S. Department of Energy's Advanced Research Projects Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Prince Ghosh, and I'm the founder and CEO of Boundary Labs. I have a vision that one day, every single wind turbine in America will have our technology on it. I'm hoping that each and every one of you can join me on that journey. Thank you so much.
Next, thank you very much for that. Next, we have a team from Carnegie Mellon Ecotone.
Hello, I'm Sasha Cohen-Ioannidis.
And I'm Dylan Liu, and we are Ecotone Renewables.
So personally, I've never eaten an apple core, and I bet that many of you haven't either. But just because we don't eat this core doesn't mean that it shouldn't have value. Why should we throw it away when we can turn it into something else that would benefit us? Currently, 16% of families in the United States are food insecure, and yet we're wasting 40% of our food supply. Why are we paying to waste, cause excess amounts of traffic congestion, and also rely on unsuitable sources of energy if we're putting all this time, energy, and money into producing nutritious food for the people of this country? We see this as an amazing opportunity to capitalize by converting this energy on or near site. Until now, the main solution has been to ship away this waste into centralized facilities like landfills. But this centralization has way too many externalities, and so we propose a new solution. The solution is called the SEAHORSE. The SEAHORSE takes otherwise wasted time, energy, and money, and it puts it back into the food system. For every meal, we can be saving restaurants 25 cents on waste hauling fees, producing 100 kilojoules of energy, and also producing 1/4 of a quart of fertilizer.
This all fits neatly into a 10 by 10 foot shipping container, which is just slightly larger than the average dumpster. This system can divert 12 tons of food waste a year, creating a $30,000 revenue stream of fertilizer and continually producing energy sufficient enough to cut nearly all electricity costs for a small business. We are helping other businesses in society by avoiding high hauling costs, avoiding odor and externality risks, and as well as capital and time overruns. We have a higher return on investments than other renewable energy resources, as we sell fertilizer, which is easily marketable and beneficial to local communities. We also reduce energy costs and emissions, which in turn improves both individual and communal energy security.
We are currently partnered with an anaerobic digestion company in Seattle called Impact Bioenergy. Our partnership allows us to practice and license at no cost because we're using their patented gas cleaning, separation, and scrubbing technology, as well as their tank layout and electrical design. We're taking their designs and we're scaling them down so that they're more accessible to smaller businesses, so that these businesses can improve their energy. Ecotone Renewables is working to improve our designs so that we can work with permitting and policy standards so that this design is accessible in urban areas. There is no other system on the market that capitalizes off of both energy and fertilizer byproducts. As you can see on this chart, the x-axis represents social and economic benefits, while the y-axis represents degrees of locality. The more local the solution, the less amount of time and money we are spending on having a negative impact on the environment. The higher the benefit, the more we, the people, are getting out of our waste removal practices. On the bottom left, you can see that we are paying to waste these renewable resources, and so we want to deploy scale-appropriate systems so that we can receive as many benefits as possible. Currently, organizations have been paying fuel, tipping, and waste hauling fees, and we want to remove these fees and externality costs. We are allowing organizations to return their investment within 1.5 years. Germany is currently the only other country in the world that does commercial anaerobic digestion. So we took their market and applied those ratios to the United States, giving us a $34 billion national market. We took that into our serviceable available market, which focuses on restaurants, apartment complexes, college dormitories, and food redistributors, because they all waste in between 10 and 15 tons of food a year. They all have an internal call to action. It is also completely possible for them to separate their waste because countries like Sweden, Norway, and Portugal are already doing this. And we're allowing them to receive additional revenue through fertilizer and decrease their energy costs. The average restaurant can save $4,500 a month on removing waste hauling fees alone.
We have 3 revenue streams, the first of which is the sale of our SEAHORSE system. In addition, we offer the market users a platform. We have an operation subscription, which allows, sorry about that. We have an operation subscription where we take control of the operation of the system in exchange for 9% of the revenue. Based on these revenue streams, we expect to sell 40 SEAHORSEs by year 5 and reduce production costs by year 4. We are receiving weekly interest from both local and international companies, and we expect this interest to grow. This is because society is pressing for these sustainable solutions. The US is aiming on having 17% of its energy be renewably sourced by 2020. 3 states and numerous European countries have already banned organic scraps in landfills, and to make this solution even more accessible, due to its compact size, we are avoiding many of the costly permits, which apply to more larger scale industrial systems. Our team is comprised of a diverse set of skills with students from Carnegie Mellon, the University of Pittsburgh, and the University of Michigan. In addition to our team, we have 3 advisors, the first of which, Dr. Deborah Stein, has worked for the White House as a technology policy specialist and currently works for the Scott Institute for Energy Innovation. Dr. Leanne Gilbertson at the Swanson School of Engineering helps us establish local connections while we work closely on our designs with Jan Allen, a civil engineer from Impact Bioenergy. Our partners include Impact Bioenergy, the local 412 Food Rescue, which connects us to over 300 restaurants in Pittsburgh, as well as the National Repair the World, which connects us to communal gardens across the country.
We have currently raised over $100,000 on our system design, and we have deployed Pittsburgh's first portable aquaponics farm. This will also be our first SEAHORSE site, and we're excited to see where our project can go from there. We are Ecotone Renewables, we are closing the food loop, and we are creating a 21st century food system. Thank you.
Thank you. Last and final presentation team is for Wasteless from the Penn State University.
everyone poops. And this is a serious problem when it comes to energy and water conservation. In the US, water is typically treated and then transported to US homes. A portion of this water goes to outdoor activities, and the rest of it becomes wastewater. The average person living in the US produces about 70 gallons of water per day. And of this, the toilet is the largest contributor. So let's see how this scales. Each person, like I said, has 70 gallons of wastewater per day, and of this, 20 gallons goes down the toilet. So if someone has a $450 annual water bill per person, 50 of those dollars are going down the toilet. With a population of 327 million people in the US, that 70 gallons becomes 23 billion gallons of wastewater each day, and 6.1 billion gallons of water flushed down the toilet. It takes, water must be treated and then transported before it returns back to the home, and this process takes a lot of energy. It takes 10 billion kilowatt hours of energy just for that toilet water cycle. In terms of dollars, that's $1.2 billion worth of electricity. Toilet manufacturers and government regulations have been making efforts to reduce the toilet's water footprint, but still we either need copious amounts of water or high pressure flushes. So to reduce the toilet's water footprint while maintaining a clean toilet surface, we need a slippery coating. So to address this issue, we've produced what we call the liquid entrenched porous surface, which we refer to as LESS. As you can see on the left, conventional toilet surfaces are prone to residue buildup, foul odors, and the accumulation of disease-causing bacteria if they're not regularly maintained. But our coating stands out from its pure hydrophobic coating technologies and its ability to repel solid waste, in addition to liquid waste. Any residue that does attach to our surface can be washed away with 90% less water than a conventional toilet surface. So this is how our coating compares to a conventional surface, but you might be wondering, how does it compare to a state-of-the-art hydrophobic coating? So as we see here, our surface outperforms even the state-of-the-art super hydrophobic surfaces and slippery smooth surfaces here in terms of its solid repellency. So our coating leaves less residue, and that means it requires less water to clean it. We further validated our technology through a collaboration with Cranfield University. This group received funding from the Gates Foundation for the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge, and they reached out to us with this particular issue of fecal residue on the toilet bowl. So in their tests, they drop human waste onto different surfaces, and they allow this surface to slide, and then they see how much residue is left over. And as you can see, on all of the other surfaces they tested, all of the waste sticks, but on our surface, all of that waste slides away. But even in the case that we had some residue left on our surface, it would still take up to 90% less water to clean our surface compared to the state of the art. So for households, rental managers, universities, large-scale institutions, basically anyone who's footing a water bill, toilet surface that can consume 90% less water would mean money savings. But at the national scale, it would also lead to large-scale energy savings. We've already filed a patent on this coating, and as you can see here from this video, our coating can already be applied to toilets. We are planning to conduct further customer discovery in conjunction with some technical optimizations to see what coating method our customers would prefer. Our current plan is to first conduct a pilot test at our home institution of Penn State University, and we've already started making arrangements with our custodial manager there. If this is successful, we intend to reach out to other universities, leveraging the reach and the leadership that this custodial manager has with the Big Ten network, and also setting janitorial standards in other institutions. And once we've made some initial sales in institutions, we'd like to extend our reach into retail. And eventually, we want to see our coating in every toilet in the country. When it comes to large scales, if you consider Penn State University, we have a student enrollment of over 46,000 students, and that means that on one day, one school day, we're flushing almost 1 million gallons of water down the toilet. In terms of energy alone, that means we're flushing away almost $70,000, and we can save a lot of this with our coating. However, based on interviews with over 100 customers that we've already conducted through our experience in the National I-Corps program, we do understand that we can add significantly more value to institutions by reducing the labor associated with cleaning the toilets. At the individual level, we can save homeowners significant amounts of money per year just on their water bills. And nationally, these savings would extend to, instead of flushing trillions of dollars down the toilet each year, we could be flushing significantly less. From a potential savings perspective, if our coding were applied to all of the toilets in the United States, institutions and workplaces would see savings, potential savings of $7.5 billion. Households would see $15 billion of savings. And our plan is to price our product based on these possible savings, allowing the end user to keep some of these savings, and then we would keep the rest as revenue. To get a little bit more specific in terms of our financial goals, we intend to focus our first year on developing a minimum viable product for institutions. Our second year would be spent optimizing this MVP and developing a commercial product for institutions, while also working on tweaking this commercial product into an MVP for households and retail. In our third year, we hope to have reliable institutional sales. There are a number of non-market drivers for this particular technology at the institutional level all the way up to the national level. For example, at our home institution of Penn State, there are a number of energy-saving initiatives, as well as committees dedicated to making sure that the university makes choices that promote reduction in energy and also reduced water consumption. At the national level, there are also policies in place, such as the Energy Policy Act of 1992, which sets a limit on how much toilets can send away per flush. There are also other programs that incentivize reducing this flush volume even further from what the policy prescribes. Our team is composed of a number of PhD students. All of us have a materials science background. We have a professor on our team from mechanical engineering, and our mentor has had 20 plus years of startup experience. We've worked on a number of projects together, both in the lab and outside, such as in the I-Corps program. So far, we've been developing our technology since 2015, and we've also been validating it through various experiments and with this Reinvent the Toilet Challenge through our collaborators at Cranfield University. And our next steps are to, we have some technical milestones, which include conducting this pilot test at Penn State. And we also have a number of business milestones as well. Currently, we are participating in the Ben Franklin Techcelerator program, where our goal is to surround ourselves with experts and advisors that can fill in the gaps in our team and give us additional experience and expertise. We'll also be looking into different aspects of our supply chain structure and also regulations relevant to our product. But ultimately, we want to revolutionize the way that waste is managed. With a coding like ours, toilets may one day be able to keep themselves clean while reducing their environmental impact. Thank you.
Let's thank our team for a great presentation. Thank you, each team. So please give us a few minutes to determine the results of the judging. Good luck to everyone. Very good, excellent, innovative ideas. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So it's about 5:30. At 6 o'clock, we have our next speaker. It's Balaji Ganapathy, who is the world head of HR for global effectiveness from Tata Consultancy Services. So I wanted to make sure everyone was going to be staying to see that in the next few minutes. We're very excited. He should be arriving any moment. We're also going to be announcing our poster winners. We had 46 posters today, so quite a few that came in at the last minute. It's causing we're making sure that we've got everything calculated. So we'll be back with you in just a minute to make that announcement as well. Sustainability Weekend does kick off with Balaji's talk at 6 o'clock. Immediately following, between 7 and 8, there's a reception in Rangos 3 on the other side of this wall. They're getting that set up. And then tomorrow there are sessions and panels all day. So for those of you who are still in town, and particularly those of you that are students, Sustainability Weekend is really shaping up to be a pretty great afternoon, morning and afternoon, I should say. They're starting tomorrow morning around 9:30 in the morning, and they have a series of panels and a keynote again over lunch, I believe, tomorrow. So some very good programming. For those of you who have been with us for most of the week, I really want to thank you for being here. And we're very excited for all of the successful sessions, the great speakers, the keynotes, et cetera, that we had, as well as evening events, et cetera. There were some tours today that I think went particularly well, and we've got a lot of good things coming up for you in 2019, because Energy Week will be March 25th through 29th of 2019. So with that, if you'll give us just a couple of minutes, please hang tight. Not time to leave yet. We are going to make these announcements, particularly those of you with posters as well. We want to make sure you all hang out just a few minutes so we can make those announcements. Thank you. Our poster winners are still here. If not, let's still give a round of applause for them. So, for all of our posters. So, in the category of Best Undergraduate Poster, receiving an award of $250, we have Rhiannon Farney, and the poster is Pittsburgh to Paris, Reducing the Carbon Footprint of CMU. So is Rhiannon Farney here? You are, come on up. Congratulations. Hi. So there was a second student on that poster, Valisa Lee. Congratulations, ladies. So let's come over here and take a quick picture. Can we get a picture together? I wish we had something behind us right now. But. Thank you. So the next category for Best Master's Student, again for $250, is Rohit Garg, and the poster is Grip Ballast, Autonomous Load Control on Grid Resilience. So is Rohit here? Is Rohit here? He missed a golden opportunity to come up on stage and get his picture taken. So, congratulations. Okay, so we have a tie for second place. A tie for second place. So these were equal in point value. I'm going to have to read one before the other, but they are equal in point value. So for second place, for $500, we have Yian Wang. And the poster is Development of Regression Model to Correlate Molecular Properties with Flammability or Liquid Eligibility. I don't know the last word. Is that you? Come on up. Yes, come on. Can you take a picture of us in front of the... Yeah, let's do here. I didn't realize that we don't have anything back there. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. So for the winners of that first poster, if you guys will come back up, we'll get a better picture before we leave. All right, so in a tie for second place, $500, is Jacob Ward. On-demand ride-sharing has reduced per capita vehicle registration and gasoline. Is Jacob Ward here? Jacob Ward? Again, another missed opportunity for a picture up on stage. Congratulations, Jacob Ward. All right, so the moment you've been waiting for, in first place for our poster competition, 46 posters this time, very good. At $1,000 for first prize is Gurjot Sethi, with the poster Identifying the Prospects of Electrochemical Ammonia Synthesis Using First Principles and really bad handwriting. So let's have a round of applause for Gurjot Sethi. Thank you. Great. So with that, I want to congratulate all of you with posters, and please stay with us for the next little bit. We're going to have a fantastic talk. Our speaker for 6 o'clock has arrived, so we'll be going right into that. And we have a reception immediately following. Thank you. we're not going to connect this.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just. Yeah.
Okay. Let me find.
Yeah,
You said
that's-
you're not going to connect that?
No,
one?
no, no. But we want this for the background up here.
Okay. All right, so we have a 15-minute break in between then until the keynote?
We're not having a break. Yeah, please. Hopefully, people will stay to hear the announcement of the Allegheny Cleantech Prize, folks.
That's a
Okay.
big prize.
That's a big prize. Okay.
Okay. So before we announce the three winners, I want to invite Paul Jaffe from the Naval Research Lab, who will announce the semifinalists for the DoD competition, special prize, surprise.
Thank you, Chanette. I appreciate the introduction. As Chanette mentioned, I'm Paul Jaffe from the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, and I am here as the representative from the Department of Defense in looking at energy projects with regard to their applicability for Department of Defense needs. So it's no surprise, I'm sure, to you to know that a lot of pain and danger goes into providing energy to our forces and those that work to keep us safe and that fight for our country. As a result, there's a DoD prize track, and the three teams that have been selected here will go on to the final competition. There were a couple requirements for the DoD prize. The first was that a team must have a prototype of whatever their innovation or technology is, and that it should address the key driver of reducing mass and volume of the energy supplies that we need to move forward. It also needs to be easy to use, able to be rapidly deployed, and durable. So to this end, there were three teams that exhibited addressing these needs. The first one, I'm pleased to say, is Wasteless Tech from Penn State. If you would have a team representative come up for a moment. So, as you saw from their presentation, Wasteless Tech's innovation reduces the volume of water that's needed. So if you can imagine just like cutting down, ideally by 90%, the number of tanker trucks full of water that we might have to bring forward would be great. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
The second team is Gridfruit from CMU. Their approach to monitoring, controlling, and potentially reducing energy that's used in theater is very valuable. Again, any amount of fuel that we can reduce is important for DoD, and perhaps most important, and we actually hear this, like I hear this when I talk to the Marines and the Army, they say, you know, we have a real problem where we can't even monitor how much energy we're using and where we're using it. So the innovation from Gridfruit is a really good step towards doing that for our forces. So congratulations. So then the final team in the defense track is Square Line Power from West Virginia University. Their innovation allows soldiers to potentially easily recharge equipment without it getting dirty, without requiring bulky power cabling that is prone to failure. And it also offers a promise potentially of a drone that you could recharge without having to plug it in or to unplug it. So is there anyone still here from Square Line Power? All right, well, if you would accept it on their behalf, that would be fantastic. So, and as many of you are having exposure now to wireless power as a thing in the consumer world, obviously there's applications for DoD as well. So, congratulations.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the winners of the prototype prize and the $2,500 to develop their prototypes are Boundary Labs, Case Western, wind turbine drag reduction. Do you want me to announce all of them together? Yeah. Gridford from Carnegie Mellon, intelligent software for commercial building refrigeration. Xperi ML, Carnegie Mellon, artificial intelligence for better batteries. The fan favorite.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
So those three teams can come up so we can take a picture.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But these guys are too tall. I don't want to stand next to them. Fan favorite winner of $5,000 prize is Copen State Solar Cell Technology Team from Copen State University of Maryland. Take this as a representative, one of you. Yeah, we're the center, and whoever stands in the center will get this one.
Yes, and
Who's at the center over there?
the lead speaker or team leader, please hold the actual prize.
Oh, okay.
Who's your team leader there? There you go. You guys move this way just a little bit. Let me have you come around here behind to this lady. No. You stay there.
Okay.
Just balance and there you go.
Golly. So the prize, third place for the Allegheny Region Cleantech competition and winner of $5,000 prize, Boundary Labs from Case Western.
Thank you.
Second place and winner of $10,000 prize, Ecotone from Carnegie Mellon. Yes, that's it. Golly, I'm tiptoeing. First place and winner of $50,000 prize, Wasteless Technology from Penn State. Congratulations. Okay. Small tech video. Thank you. So that ends the Allegheny region competition, and I will turn podium to Anna to introduce the next speaker.
If all the Allegheny Cleantech winners could go outside, let's get a big group shot. Get right in front of the banner out here. Right in front of the banner right here.
Good evening. I'm very excited to be able to present to you our speaker for this evening and the kickoff of Sustainability Weekend. So we at Energy Week are extremely excited that we've had this opportunity to partner with Sustainability Weekend, including Tamara Amen, who's here in the front, to put together some exceptional programming for this sort of crossover event. And so this evening I would actually like to welcome to the stage Balaji Ganapathy. He is the head of workforce effectiveness and oversees the functions of HR, business consulting, diversity and inclusion, corporate social responsibility for over 35,000 employees of the Tata Consultancy services in North America. His primary responsibilities include coaching sales and business teams for business growth, driving talent management and retention initiatives, leading the corporate social responsibility strategy, and incubating a culture of inclusion. Balaji serves as a chair of the STEM Connectors STEM Innovation Task Force, chairperson of NPower's TCC Advisory Council, vice chair of the Million Women Mentors Leadership Council, executive committee of Impact 2030, World Economic Forum's Education Steering Committee, and as part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Education, Employment, and Training Committee. As head of HR for Global R&D, he's part of Tata's Corporate Technology Board with a mandate for institutionalizing a culture of innovation across the organization, which makes him the perfect guest speaker based on Sustainability Weekend's themes of equity, diversity, and sustainability inclusion. As head of HR for TCS's Corporate Learning Center, he led a team responsible for onboarding and integrating over 12,000 campus hires. I am very pleased to welcome Balaji to the stage.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's happy hour, right? So very happy to be here. And thanks to Carnegie Mellon for inviting me to speak to you and share some of my thoughts and perspectives about equity, diversity, inclusion, and a few other things. I hope you'll have questions because I have prepared for half an hour, and I hope the rest of the time we'll spend in interacting with each other. A couple of things I thought of when I was sitting here watching these young upcoming professionals come up and present on stage and share their concepts. It took me back 20 years when I did the same. And it's really invigorating to be an entrepreneur and have amazing concepts that can change the world. Right? Mine was on a fuel cell powered car, which goes and very well aligned with the theme of clean energy and reducing energy consumption overall. But some of the things that I learned during that time stay with me even today, 25 years later. The second thing I want to mention before I kick off my session is the great relationship between TCS and CMU. Very thankful for this partnership, this amazing partnership. 2 years ago, TCS made a $35 million endowment to CMU, and as a result of that, we're starting to see the vibrant innovation that's going to happen around the areas of robotics, autonomous systems, and artificial intelligence, and so many other digital technologies that are powering today's economy. And that's going to be the how I'm going to frame my session and talk about education as really a great lever for economic opportunity and the role of digital technologies within that. That's what I'm here to share a message around. So when I entered the workforce, in fact, I was an entrepreneur before I joined TCS. So when I entered the workforce, the kind of things that were being talked about were email, having access to email itself was a great thing. Having access to a computer to do something was even better. And technology meant something else. In today's world, technology means something incredibly different, right? If you think about what has happened over the past 2-3 decades in terms of the proliferation of technology and also the rate at which it has been adopted and commercialized for business good as well as societal good, it's incredible. So we live in a time where we are able to use buzzwords like big data and analytics and Internet of Things, and it just doesn't stay as a buzzword. It's actually practically applicable, very much approachable, and accessible to people to create innovations around and commercialize it, and also use it for social good. So we live in a very interesting time. So what does the future look like? The future is here and now, is my first message to you. And that's evident in the kind of presentations that you saw from the upcoming researchers and undergraduate and master's students at CMU and other universities who are represented here. They brought the best of innovation and applied that into social problems that they saw around them. But the future is here and now also because, like I said, these are not buzzwords. These are technologies that are powering solutions within enterprises, within countries, within communities. And when I think about the resurgence of a city like Pittsburgh, you can certainly say that a lot of this has to do with the technology uplift that has happened. Right? So, so the future is here and now. That's my first message to you. And when you think about the opportunities that lie ahead, there's tremendous possibilities that are there for us to really harness and utilize the potential of. So some of you may be familiar with the concept of the fourth industrial revolution and what that means. And for those who have heard of it but want to understand more, I have a short video to play.
The video. Oh no.
No? Okay. That's fine. I'll do a 1-minute summary of that. The fourth industrial revolution is basically following the first three. The first three, many of you may be familiar with, but the use of steam to really drive up production and productivity was the first industrial revolution. The second industrial revolution was the use of electricity to commercialize and then, again, increase productivity, but bring in some mechanization and machinization into society. And the third industrial revolution is all about computers and information technology and the ability of those technologies to then, again, enhance societal growth and productivity, right? What is happening today is that we are in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, and what is so different between this particular innovation cycle, which is known as the fourth industrial revolution and others, is that it is happening in a space where three different areas are intersecting, right? You have technology that is in the intersecting with nature and biology, and also systems. So you have three different elements coming together, and the opportunities that then become available for the kind of innovation that can happen is completely different. So that's what you're seeing in rapid advances, for example, in drug discovery, bionic arms. On the other side, you're seeing rapid advances in things like autonomous vehicles and what it can do, UAVs, and yesterday I was reading about the success of a small startup, not small anymore, a startup called Zipline that's using drones to deliver blood to people in Rwanda, right? So the availability of these technologies and what it's doing is flipping the whole innovation model upside down, right? So as an organization, let me shift gears and think about it from an organizational perspective, right? As an organization, what is it that we do in order to really harness the power of these technologies? That's what I want to spend a few minutes on, and then that will lead to my next part of the session, which is more around what does that mean for society at large, and what role do each of us have to play within that, right? So we, from a company perspective, we look at this, and the way our thought leadership framework is laid out, we call it as Business 4.0. And Business 4.0 is all about, we are a B2B company, a technology company that's providing digital services to Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 companies around the world, right? So when we view it, what we are saying is that these technologies are helping us take our customers, who are enterprises, be more intelligent, agile, automated, and on the cloud. And what is behind each of those four technology-led innovations? Intelligent means having not just access to data, but converting that data into insights and using analytics to lead us to data-based and evidence-based approaches to decision-making, right? That's what being intelligent enterprises is all about. Being agile means able to move away from an innovation cycle where you had to wait for months and years to see technology-led change happen, and be able to do it in incrementally as you grow your enterprise, right? And so for those of you who have been on the corporate side, you can understand the challenges involved in technology projects, right? These are never on time, never on budget, and by the time you get to the point where the software system is implemented, its need is already gone. I see somebody smiling in the audience. Yeah, you've felt the pain. You've seen it happen. But what the agile-based methodologies allow us to do is to cut through all of that and basically interact directly between people who are owning the product to people who are designing the product, right? So that's the second technological innovation that we are tapping into. The third one is being automated, which means that the resources that are available within the organization can then be prioritized to something bigger than what it is currently dedicated to, whether it is human resources, technology resources, intellectual resources, financial resources. You can do that if you think of it from a machine-first delivery model, which is what we are bringing to the table as an organization. And there are ramifications of that. But the fourth element of it is cloud. And again, many of you are familiar with these technologies, whether it is public cloud, private cloud, hybrid clouds, and the ability for you to be accessing data real time in places where you know that the resilience of that data when any external interactions happen is very high, right? So it's transformative not just for large enterprises, it's also transformative for small and medium businesses, and to be able to do that. Think of the move to cloud as how we dealt with Y2K and what happened during that time, right? The model of having a factory-based approach to looking at what systems existed and moving them and migrating them into new set of systems. That's what's happening today with the move to cloud. Of course, cloud has much more potential than that, but the early adoption of cloud is happening in this space. So if these are the 4 technology innovations or technology drivers behind Business 4.0, there are 4 behavioral elements which hasn't changed since the first industrial revolution. It continues to remain the same, but the way we interpret and use it has changed over time. So if you look at it today, mass customization or tailoring it to the segment of one. This has always been the case. If you look at 20, 30 years ago, businesses were again all about putting the customer at the center of everything that you do, right? So it's not very different. But what has happened today is because of the availability of these technologies, you are able to make that kind of customization and personalization in a seamless manner, in a more cost-effective manner, in a manner where you can play around and scale things pretty quickly, in a manner where you're able to see results and the feedback loop is much faster, right? So mass customization, and this, for example, if you look at what's happening with retail and the whole shopping experience, or with travel and how you interact with air travel or when you go on a cruise, all of that is one of the first few adoptions and manifestations of mass customization. The second aspect is creating exponential value, which means that using the limited resources or the resources that are available to have a multiplier effect. And that's what is the second concept. Again, something very linked to productivity, but this is not just about productivity. This is about growth and transformation. And that's what thinking about it from an exponential value perspective brings in, right? So the exponential value to not just lines of business within customers, but the entire enterprise, right? And the third element is leveraging ecosystems. So today, you are collaborating across functions, and when I first learned about this, and a couple of days ago when I heard the introductory speech by your president, he mentioned the word interdisciplinary. And I think that's where leveraging ecosystems comes into play, because you're no longer siloed within the boundaries of a discipline or a unit or a business line, but you are actually leveraging ecosystems not just within your organization. In fact, we have a co-innovation network where we have researchers, we have startups, we have academic institutions, research institutions, all of that you can tap into as you are thinking about innovating a new product or a service or an offering, right? So, and these ecosystems are tremendous. If you are able to tap into, for example, public infrastructure systems and have that interact with data that you have within your organization and create something of value for a town or a community, think of what it can do, right? So earlier you could imagine that, but you couldn't deliver it because the constraints that were placed by the technological challenges. Today you don't have that anymore, right? So the fourth element is embracing risk. And this is all about our journey as an organization to reinvent ourselves every few years or every few decades. We've been in business. This is our 50th year of existence. And if you meet people who have been 20, 30 years in the company, of which there are a lot, you ask them how were things when you started with the company, you get tremendous stories that bring a lot of historical perspective of the change that happens within organizations, technology companies, and information technology companies, and where we are today. So the embracing risk is also about being able to channel those thoughts and culture to help our customers also embrace that risk. But do that in a way that's very diligent, right? They are able to embrace that risk, pilot new ideas, new technologies, new offerings, which you can see an immediate effect on the customer side also. And this is happening all around the world. This is not just isolated to the US. This is happening in Europe, UK. Companies around the world are doing this, right? So in summary, all of this can happen only if we harness the abundance that is in the middle of this whole new ecosystem. And abundance means, from our point of view, abundance of talent and abundance of opportunities, right, as a company. But if I now shift focus and look at the abundance that is available around us in the world and where that had, it's amazing. We keep thinking about the challenges that we face as a society. 3 billion people employed against 7 billion citizens around the world. And if you look at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, that will give you a goal sheet of how the world can become a better place, right? 17 goals that speak to the challenges that exist around the world. But the resources are also available on the other side, right? So whether it is talent, whether it is technology, whether it is access to better infrastructure, better thought process, better, so many things have changed. So in that context, if I think about a person living today and wanting to participate in this new economy, in this new fourth industrial revolution economy, there is a bridge that we need to put in place. And the bridge is needed because the way our education systems and society has prepared people over the past 100+ years to participate within organizations or be entrepreneurs and business people on their own, that's not going to work anymore. It worked really well for an agrarian era. It worked in a pretty good way for the industrial era. But the demands that are being placed on young people as they come up through life are very different today. I look at my own daughter and I wonder, the day when she's going to ask a question that I can't Google up, right? It's going to happen someday because kids are much more smarter. They have access to more information. They fail fast, fail early on in their life. So they are learning resilience and how to learn. And they're coming up with all of these kind of mindsets in order to face the world. But if we corner them or if we put them into a system that is not meant to provide the kind of experiences that is required to participate in the new economy, that is a challenge, right? So that's something that all of us have to think about. And this is not to say any system is good or bad. It is what it is today. Even more, what worries me is that the people who are not participating in the economies of today, right? If we are here in the room, we are really privileged to be part of that society where we know what our roles are, what we could do well, and we are doing those. Think of the underserved and the underrepresented parts of society, where today they don't have access to these opportunities because the education and the awareness that is required for people to get there is not there today, right? So think of that for a moment and think of how we can advance that. So that's what I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about. And I want to start with 3 metrics for you to frame this problem, right? One is that if you look at the world of today, this was a statistic that is from 3 years ago, still true today. 35% of core skills that are required in careers and opportunities of 2020 are changing during a 5-year period, which means that this is our world changing from under our feet. What was my first message? The future is here and now. And it's happening for people who are employed or people who are entrepreneurs who are doing these businesses. The way they have to interact with organizations, the way they have to think about innovation, commercialization, all of that has changed. And it's changing rapidly. So as an organization, there are some responsibilities that we have. As society, there are some responsibilities that we have to understand what these changes are and make sure that these are signals that are passed on from the world of work to the world of education and beyond. Would you agree? The second statistic is that 65% of students who are entering primary school today are going to be in jobs that do not exist yet. How do you prepare a world where you don't know what the jobs of the future are going to look like? And believe me, these kids who are participating in these opportunities, they know where to go, they know how to go. But as society, if you look at it in scale and the disparate systems that exist across countries and across continents, then the problem that we're dealing with is totally different, right? So not only do we have to envisage the future and understand what that is going to look like, we then have to translate it backwards to how this is going to unfold and what can we do today that can prepare people for that future tomorrow, right? And the third element I'll put in front of you, the third statistic, to frame this problem is that I mentioned earlier that technology also comes with some challenges, right? And many of us have seen and heard the doomsday scenarios of millions of jobs going to be lost because of automation and new technology adoption. While I don't subscribe to that view entirely, I think the element of truth that is there are two elements of truth. One is that what we call as a job is going to change. So the skills that are required, while some may remain and some part of that work will remain, some part of that work will go away. And as you can imagine, it is going to be the mundane and the repetitive aspects of what we do today in our jobs that is going to change. But as a result of that, there are going to be some work streams, some career paths, some jobs that will disappear. And that's been the case with every industrial revolution that's happened. The second element of truth, which is troubling, is that if you are a woman or if you are a person from a minority background, the impact on you is going to be much higher. And that's where the burden of what is going to happen is going to fall on those who already don't have the kind of support that is needed or the opportunities that are needed, right? But even with all of that, I believe that we have a great future ahead of us, because I don't believe that machines are going to take over. I believe that it's going to be the people like you and me who are going to determine where our world heads next. Of course, that means that we need to be responsible. We need to think about what kind of boundaries we put around how we innovate, and doing it in a way that is not just fair and just, but also equitable, right? So how are we doing that? And what kind of thoughts can I bring to the table from the experiences that we have had as an organization to bring to this discussion? And then I'll open it up for questions and interaction on what other ideas we could have. So as a company with 380,000 employees around the world, we have a few things that work really well for us. It is the talent and the abundance of talent that is the starting point. So rather than look at this as a problem of, do we need these many employees? What's going to happen with employees in the future? We looked at it as an opportunity to prepare the same set of employees for a new tomorrow. The second thing is 130,000 employees are women against a sector where the representation is about 24% today in the US. Most good companies are doing it 22% in the tech sector. That's no great shakes, but We need to do better. We need to create more pathways, which I'll address in a subsequent slide. 133 nationalities, which means that the cultural competencies that are required in the world of work of tomorrow, we have that in abundance. And 50 markets. So market knowledge also we have in abundance. So that's what we look at as our strength as an organization. So if you view your own personal strengths in the context of where we are and where we are going, that's a good starting point. Then what do you do with it? This is just a summary. 2.2 million people have been reached through the work that we are doing over the past few years. And we've invested close to $200 million in societal initiatives. But even more important is that we're walking the talk within the organization also. Over 500,000, 500,000 new digital competencies that we have developed just in the past couple of years, and over 1 million certifications. What does that mean? It means if I framed the problem, I mean, you knew I was going to come up with some solution also to offer. The solution that we have to offer is that in the world of the fourth industrial revolution, and using Business 4.0 as a thought leadership framework, we believe that we can harness abundance to empower communities. That is our worldview. And how do we do that? We do that in 3 ways. You can do that by starting within your own organizations. Reskilling and upskilling employees so that they can participate in the world of today and tomorrow. Preparing young people for opportunities of today and tomorrow. And that means interacting with education and social systems that exist here and around the world. The third and the most important thing is making sure that all of this is done with a lens of equity and access, so that the people that we are trying to reach and impact first are the ones who are getting it least today. Okay, with me so far? Now I'm going to give you some examples of how we are doing it, and hopefully that will give you some food for thought and also something to reflect on as we get into the discussion part of this session. We're building cross-functional skills. When the title of the session is transdisciplinary education, I'm sure I'm going to walk the talk when it comes to that from the organization side. So if you view it as a triangle, what we are saying is that what we are channeling to our employees and to customer executives who are talking to us also, what we are saying is that in the new world of work, you need knowledge, deep knowledge from a technical sense, deep knowledge from a domain sense, and deep knowledge from a contextual sense. Knowledge of technology is something you can easily gain by going to a course, gaining a certification. Knowledge of domain is something you gain not just by attending a course, by working in a, say for example, an energy company, you gain domain knowledge, right? But the third element, which is the power of your existing workforce and people who are already at work, is the contextual knowledge of how to do what to do. And all of this coming together is what is powering the Business 4.0 journey that we're having. And that means giving people access to educational and training opportunities where they are, when they want. So if I go from here to my hotel in Pittsburgh this evening and it takes 15 minutes, what can I learn that is bite-sized and that's useful for me? I open up my phone. I have a Fresco Play app, which is a tool that TCS uses. I scroll down to machine learning. That sounds interesting. Everybody seems to be talking about it nowadays. So what does that mean? And in 15 minutes, I can gain basic knowledge of what that is. And that tells me whether this is something that I have aptitude for, something I want to pursue further. And then I graduate to the next level by signing up for a course. It can be a web-based course, it can be a virtual one, or I can attend it in an external forum. So providing layers, opportunity for layers of competencies and skills to be gained is how we are breaking this down and democratizing it. Basically, you're democratizing both access to these opportunities as well as proficiency, how you gain proficiency in these skills and competencies. So that's the first part. The second part, when it comes to external, and now the rest of my session is all going to be about externally what we do in the community and how we can interact through public-private partnerships and other means. It's all about three things. Context, which if you remember I said is the most important aspect, content, and connection. That's in summary what we do with the external world in terms of community engagement. And some examples of how we do that is what I'm going to describe to you. The first one is GoIT. Couldn't be more happy or passionate about a program than GoIT. This is, next year is our 10th year of running this program. This is, in summary, a program that helps young people from disadvantaged and underrepresented backgrounds and under-resourced parts of society to stop being just consumers of technology and start being creators and innovators of technology. How do you do that? Very simply, translating what you saw before this in terms of the wonderful presentations and concepts that many of your teams brought up here and showed, and translating it to a K-12 environment. That's pretty much it. Why? Because some of you who are younger here in the room still know the passion and the what it comes with when the eureka moment that occurs when you're able to see yourself using something that you learned to solve a problem that is persisting you. That's what GoIT does. We help students define a problem that they see around them, or if they cannot, we offer them one from what we have seen in the community or nationally, and then put them in teams. And first of all, start with empathy. If you look at what the World Economic Forum said is going to be one of the top skills for 2020. How many of you have seen? If you've not seen that, you should go and look at that. One of the top skills is emotional intelligence. Right? Starts with empathy. Being able to relate and put yourself in the shoes of somebody else going through that problem, but then being able to disassociate and see how you can address that. Starts with that. Then goes into human-centered design. So we teach them design thinking. And we have narrowed it, and we have really been able to abstract it to a way where within 20 hours, these students are able to absorb these concepts, apply them on a problem of their choice, come up with solutions, present those solutions, and then get excited about working on it after we leave. This with inner city neighborhoods and rural parts of the country where, let alone a technology course or something around computer science, many of those school systems don't even have the resources that are needed to do that. So that's where you can have transformative change. When you apply something that you know can work really well, but really hone how it can do well in a place where the need is the most. So the whole innovation process that happens within GoIT is mimicking what we do. If you remember the 4 technology levers within Business 4.0, Agile was one of them. This is mimicking the Agile methodology that we use within the organization. So they come up with concepts, wireframes, storyboards, quickly program, and see how that solution comes to life using technology. And then get feedback immediately so that they can iterate and improve upon those. And that's what they do. In New York region, this is run in 58 cities across US and Canada, and has grown to many countries outside of the US and Canada as well today. In the New York region, we decided to use the platform that we have as the title sponsor of the New York City Marathon to bring some of these kids and share the concepts that they had, similar to how some of you shared in front of an esteemed audience. We asked them to think about problems around health, around wellness, around nutrition. The 5 boroughs and a few cities outside of New York City, and asked them to come up and pitch this in front of CEOs of healthcare organizations, of companies that are involved in running, and elite runners themselves. Let's see how they did. We'll play the video.
That's pretty. 71 degrees Monday in November. We'll take that. Looking forward to that tomorrow. In the meantime, as we look more ahead to today's race, technology plays an important role in running.
The TCS Go IT program exposes students in New York City schools to computer programming and developing apps. We want to introduce you to a team of students in the Bronx who are competing in this year's Go IT app contest.
We would like our app to be able to use a supermarket.
They can help, build off ideas from our app. Kawan, Shamika, and Natalia are honing a PowerPoint presentation for an innovative app aimed at helping people make smarter dietary decisions.
We're going to be really strong in your introduction.
The 8th graders from One World Middle School in the Bronx are being mentored by volunteers from TCS.
This is the number of people who are eating healthy, and this is the number of people who are obese.
These kids were brought together through TCS's Go IT, a program that encourages students to pursue STEM degrees.
The end game now is just to inspire students and get them interested in computer science specifically. Shows them that they can be producers of the things they use every day and not just consumers.
The students' Food Flex app is designed to offer healthier ingredients to everyday food products and recipes.
I can help myself and help other people figure out ways to eat healthy.
For Natalia, the app hits home.
I get involved in this because my dad wants me to go on a diet because I eat too much unhealthy food. This app can help me to go on a diet by not making my dad forcing me into doing stuff like that because he's been on me a lot.
Teachers say the Go IT program opens up a whole new world of career opportunities.
So it opens their eyes to the possibilities, and the more possibilities they have, the more stars they have to reach for.
They've even talked about taking it beyond graduation.
I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but this has got me thinking, maybe I want to become an app designer.
Now, the Go IT competition was held on Friday. Unfortunately, that team you just met from the Bronx did not win. But, hey, another food scanning app did win. So congratulations to the students from Edison in New Jersey on their Food Truth app.
So that's just an example of what you can do by bringing industry context and pairing up mentors with young kids. This particular team was from the Bronx, but there were teams from across all the boroughs that competed in this challenge. But the idea is not just to provide the challenge and the opportunity for people to engage, but to provide that real world connect, right? That gives the context. They're able to say that, oh, okay, this is not just something that I'm learning to write a test. This is something that I'm going to use. This is going to stay with me for life. Problem solving skills, the communication skills, the team building skills. And you ask me as an employer, what is lacking in that I would like to fix among people that we hire? It is those skills. You ask any employer around the world, at least 70-80% of the time you'll get the same answer. So providing that context puts them on a path where even if you are not there, they cannot stop thinking about how they can apply these concepts that they have learned, these techniques that they have learned to problems that they see around them. So it develops a way of thinking. Now the second example I want to share with you is Ignite My Future in School. And this was born out of the need that exists across America that many of you may be aware of, many of you may not be aware of. We are sitting, of course, here in CMU, which boasts being the top computer science school in the country and possibly the world. But do you know that less than 20% of schools across America have even access to a computer science course. Less than 1 million out of the 55 million students in our public education system are even being offered something that you can refer to as a computational thinking or computer science concepts. Yet, as employers, as industry, we predict that computational thinking, not just computer science is the ultimate reflection of that. But if you look at the breadth of skills that are needed, computational thinking is going to be a foundational skill required for any job, any career, any sector. Why? Because it is the new problem-solving methodology of the 21st century. It's not that it is new in terms of a concept and a science. It's been in existence for many years now. But it's capturing the public imagination because it is giving a way for us to define this and say that in order to interact with machines, in order to interact with these things that we are creating, you need to know how to talk to it, right? You need to know how to look at data, how to make sense of it, how to abstract it, how to model the data. And these are not just needed if you are a computer scientist or a computer science engineer. These are problem-solving skills that you need as a citizen of the world of today and tomorrow. Only then will you be able to appreciate what's happening around us and how these digital technologies are impacting you, right? So we said, how do we go about doing this? How do we go about bringing computational thinking in an ecosystem where computer science itself has a challenging presence? So many years, for many years, we've been working with efforts like CS for All and other national and regional efforts to advance computer science education, working with senators and congresspersons at the Hill to promote policy that will allow for computer science to be introduced into high schools, into middle schools. The needle is moving, but it is moving really slowly. We don't have time for that. As a country, as a society, because the students who are coming out of the education system today need it as much as when the policy comes into effect maybe a few years from now. So it is up to us as citizens, as industry, as government, as educational institutions, as civic society to take up and take charge of this. So one solution that we offered for that is to partner with a reputable educational organization called Discovery Education. We said, let's develop a program that brings computational thinking into the classroom. But the difference is that we're not going to ask teachers to do something new. We're not going to ask teachers to change their entire curriculum. We're not going to ask them to do one more thing. Because if there is any group of people in the country that are underappreciated, it is the teachers. They are carrying the weight of systemic challenges that has plagued the system. So how do we make them ambassadors of this new approach? How do we empower them? That was the thought process. So we developed a set of resources that will bring computational thinking into core subjects so that whether you're teaching math, science, arts, humanities, English language, any subject that you're teaching as a teacher, there are 3.5 million of those across the country. Any subject, you can today teach computational thinking using these lesson plans, using these resources. What does that do? It creates an opportunity for people to not feel isolated and be left out. Not think that they want the best. If anybody wants the best for our students, it is the teachers. Of course, the parents are there. We are biased, right? We gave birth to them. It's the teachers who are doing it altruistically. So how about empowering them? And so what we did is we developed these resources and lesson plans. There are 40 of these today available on ignitemyfuture.org, ignitemyfutureinschool.org, I'm sorry. And what you can do as a teacher is gain access to any one of these lesson plans and use it in the classroom. But we said, okay, you can't build it and expect people to use it. So we also launched a grassroots level effort where we are now partnering with 10 pilot districts across the country to bring this to a school and the entire school district. Some of the early adopters include the Dallas Independent School District, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Janesville, Wisconsin, New York City. There are 3 districts that are adopting it, Charlotte, North Carolina. I can name places across the country that are saying that this opportunity is something that we have to make use of. And so teachers get a full day of professional development. So they are not just getting a chance to understand this new concepts and how they can use it in the classroom, because it's by choice. No one is mandating them. No one is going to tell them that if you don't use this, something is going to happen. This is by choice. But when you do that, can you help them plan their lessons, plan their weeks, plan their pedagogy in such a way that it makes it easy and accessible for them to do it? And that's what that day does. And then at the end of the day, we bring in parents and members of the community for a community night, where they can see the power of these concepts in action, where they see drones and robots and other things, interact with them, but then they get to do some family exercises which demystifies that. So, curriculum and courses and resources, professional development and through partnerships, and community nights that act as that lever for change in the local communities. And yesterday we had the opportunity to talk to our friends at CMU, and hopefully the program will come to Pittsburgh and to school systems here and around Pennsylvania also in the near future. We hope we are committed to do that. These lessons plans, as I said, are available. If you have a teacher who wants to make use of this, please contact us through the website. There are certification modules also available. So if you want to learn about the 7 foundational principles behind computational thinking, even for you, I mean, I found it pretty interesting to refresh those concepts. You can go there, you can view it. It's all self-paced modules with pre and post surveys to help you gauge how much you have learned. But if you are a teacher wanting to use this in the classroom, that's not it. That's not all that we're doing. We're having learning leaders and a network and a community of leaders be created so that both in the location that they are in and nationally, they are part of a larger community. Okay? Most of us are familiar with social networks, but for teachers it makes a huge difference, because if they hear from another teacher what they did and how it worked, the contextual knowledge of how they can apply it comes about. And that's what we're doing through those learning leaders and through those networks. So couldn't be happier with this partnership. We launched it with a goal and a vision to reach 1 million students in 5 years and 20,000 teachers. Sounded ambitious. We started in this school year, 2017 September. We've already reached 2,500 plus teachers and 150,000 students. So we believe that this is something that's really powerful, that can change the way in which people learn in a transdisciplinary way. So not as silos of math and science and arts and humanities, but use computational thinking as a common framework to bring all of this together. And you know, there are some impact measurements also. If you're interested in that, I'm happy to talk about it as in the Q&A part. Now for a video of how this is working in the Dallas school system.
be at this first day of discovery and really see Ignite My Future come to life is one of those moments where I'm so grateful to do the work that I do.
The careers of the future are changing almost faster than we can keep up with them. And it's exciting for our children, and we're excited for them, and we want to do as much as we can to help them not only be prepared to be amazing human beings, but also to be agile in the workforce and to have lots of really cool skills to pull from.
We are going to set the stage for this country around this particular initiative. We have to do this. Where the country is going, the world is going, we really have to give our students this opportunity. And the way that we do it is we teach our teachers.
This will be something really transformative, and if anything, I think the kids will come back and say, finally, like I can really show you what I can do, I can really show you what I know, and you're letting me do something that I feel like I'm really good at, that can really articulate the knowledge that you have given me.
You know, a lot of times people say, let's get our kids ready for 21st century skills. Forget that. We're heading to the 22nd century now.
And the more that we can expose them to the methodology of the thinking, the process behind it, the easier it is for them to apply it to different mediums.
The challenges we face as human beings on planet Earth today really do require creative, collaborative, adaptable solutions.
We want to celebrate what you're doing in the classroom, and most importantly, we want you to be able to share that celebration with other teachers.
I think it's a good way to open up channels of communication that haven't been previously explored. And the whole idea of a sense of community, if we can have more of an online community within our own community, then we can be working more collaboratively.
The gate is open. Like someone has taken the key and let you out of the cage, take off running and see where you end up.
Back in the day, we needed to prepare our kids to play Jeopardy. Now we need to have them to write the questions.
So I just say hats off, tremendous thank you to Tata and to Discovery for actually investing in American education and what we're trying to do, and really having us just think larger, think bigger, think bolder, think grander.
In 5 years, these kids are going to say thank you for teaching me how to think.
The last part I want to mention is that content and context is not enough. You need to have connection so that once they have the knowledge of how to use these skills, have the right kind of foundational skills be available not just through after school and out of school experiences, but within the school system itself. You also need to connect to careers of today and tomorrow. And that's where what we've been engaged in is to power the technology infrastructure as well as create grassroots level efforts along with partners from industry and from the other sectors of society. And again, these are efforts that span across the country, across all regions, across all demographics. But three specific initiatives I want to mention is, one is Million Women Mentors, which is an effort to help advance girls and young women in STEM disciplines and careers. And again, here the metrics are pretty ominous. The wage gap is real. The education gap is even more real, right? So how do you build bridges and opportunities? And that's what this particular effort is doing, both through grassroots level efforts where companies are identifying mentors who can engage with young girls and women, but also as these young women enter the workforce, the statistic also says that 50% of the drop-off within the STEM workforce for women happens in the first 10 years. So what do you do to improve persistence? How can you pair them up with internal mentors within the organization, sponsors who can help them advance? So those are all efforts that are going on. Happy to share that when we started, we wanted to reach 1 million. That was, we started in 2015. And by 2017, we had crossed that 1 million. Today, we are at 2 million pledges for mentors and mentees for this effort. And we already crossed 1 million actual mentor-mentee engagements that have been reported across the country. So again, very much aspirational scaled effort to bring this to attention and engage from an industry perspective. The second one is US 2020, which is again, effort that is built around students of colors and students from minority groups, but high impact mentoring. So you're looking at a city like, say for example, Boston or Chicago or even smaller towns, and saying what is the baseline for STEM mentoring that exists today? How do you grow that? How do we do that in partnership with smaller organizations that understand the problems and are best suited to find solutions to it? And that's what's happening with this effort. About 17 cities across the country are involved in it. Every year, with the previous administration, every year we were giving out STEM mentoring awards at the White House, hoping to continue that with this new administration as well. Empower is the final one I want to mention, disadvantaged youth. So if you are looking at the early part of the system, the middle part of the system, if you look at disadvantaged youth, which is between 18 and 24 and unemployed, right? There are a lot of those youth also in the country that need to be addressed, and which is what this organization called Empower is doing. They are headquartered out of New York, but have operations across multiple cities in the country. And the focus is to have a 22-week curriculum that can help provide technology skills that make them employable. That's the crux of it. But the focus is on disadvantaged youth and veterans. So those are the 3 examples I wanted to share with you. I want to summarize this whole session by starting where we started, that the future is here and now, which means that we need to act at the pace of innovation, not at the regular pace that we have been at. So if we have to increase our pace, we need to have sustainable solutions, but scalable solutions also. And it is possible. If a company like us with our partners can do it, with your brain power and the knowledge and wisdom that you have, we can do so much more, right? But it needs us to really come together, to cross boundaries and sit together to look at these solutions. And think of scale and impact and sustainability at the get-go, not start the effort and then do that later, which I thought was well represented in many of your student presentations. They thought about where this is going a few years from now. That same mentality is what we need in these social efforts. The second is providing education, whether it is in college or school or in general, because you don't stop learning just because you're not attending the school, right? So in general, lifelong learning as a mentality, as a culture, means access to education that is, of course, it has to be fun and engaging, but also that is relevant to the need of today and tomorrow, and that is contextual. Investing in building resilient populations, so cities like Pittsburgh, communities need to look at where they are today. The jobs disappearing will happen in some communities, but we can't fight it alone. We have to come together and think of how do you build resilience and skills and access to skills and good education, contextual, relevant education can make that difference. So we need to think of that and look at multi-year efforts to advance that. And finally, I want to end with the positivity that, like I said, I'm extremely upbeat about the future, because it is humans who are going to control what happens next. And if we can harness this abundance, we can democratize prosperity. Every person can have access to opportunities if we really put our minds against it and do it in a collaborative manner. And that's what I want to share with you. Thank you for being with me and sharing these thoughts. I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
We have an app where we've been collecting questions throughout the session, so we'll just do a couple of them. The good news is that we have a reception immediately following, and so folks can talk with you directly and ask you some additional questions.
I'd like that.
So
Thank you.
the first question is, someone wants to thank you and TCS for the incredible support of CMU, both students and faculty. Can embracing risk and change be incentivized in large operations?
That's a good point, and this is where everybody wants to change, but nobody wants to change, right? So incentives and culture are so important. This is what I learned. Part of my bio involved being the head of HR for our CTO and R&D group. And researchers, as you can imagine, are ones who are, have a methodical process, a scientific approach to things, but not always the best at commercializing ideas, right? So doing research for research and advancing that field used to be what our organization also was focused on. But through an effort where we created bridges between the research and the business applicability of that, we were able to, create a change and create a culture where innovation and incentivizing innovation became the theme. So you have to make big bets, but you have to look at who your current audience is, and embracing risk means that you create those sort of conditions that make it easy for people to embrace risk. If your performance management systems or your appraisal systems are going to ding you if you fail, then you're not going to have a culture where people feel free to embrace that risk. So you have to have the right kind of culture, right kind of behaviors, and incentivize those through your actions.
Another question, and we do have some good questions. With its strong IT background and heritage, how will TCS participate in the advanced robotics business?
So we, of course, view ourselves as a services organization that powers other organizations in their efforts. So it's primarily going to be collaborative in nature. And even today, some of the advanced robotics, whether it is in the automobile sector or in the energy sector, or in oil and gas, we are doing a lot of efforts that I can't talk about because of client confidentiality, but we are certainly right there. So it is, our space will be where we can help our customers reimagine how to move from where they are today to adopt these technologies and then bring it to their customers, their end consumers. So that's the space that we're going to continue operating in. But I'm looking forward to a day when a robo will run the New York City Marathon. So that's something, I'm looking forward to.
And so let's have one last question. Can you tell us what, as university students, we should be thinking about? What's the number one message you'd like to leave us with?
Stay grounded. So every time I meet someone and I'm wearing this pin, I get asked this question, what is this about? This is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Why do I wear it? Because it gives me perspective. I think as students or as individuals participating in society, that's all we need. We need somebody to remind ourselves that we are not the world, but we can help advance the world. So staying grounded, having perspective is the starting point, and then the rest of it will follow. Thank you. Thank you all.
So with that, we actually are going to conclude Energy Week for this week for 2018. We are planning Energy Week for 2019 already. It will be March 25 through 29. So we look forward to seeing you in the future. But from all of us, the team, Amanda and Jay Whitaker, and all of us at the Scott Institute, we want to thank you for being with us this week. For those of you who are staying for Sustainability Weekend, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. But otherwise, thank you very much. We'll talk soon on the other side of that wall, which is our reception. Thank you. And everything, right? Yes. Keep this with it. Is this mine or this is Amanda's?